feeling fine. Suiting up, got shifts on my mind, but the elevator won't come. Button's dead, elevator's gone and left me hanging instead.
I call it again, spamming that key, hoping this time it'll come for me. This time a car arrives, but the panel's blank, no floors to choose. My hopes just say
I'm waiting for an elevator, but it ain't coming now or later. Trapped in this station, can't even play. Star Citizen keeps locking me away. Backspace to mid bay, thought I'd be free. Respawn back, but here too it's blocking me. Button lights up, but I'm stuck once more. Log to menu, can't take it no more. Hangars are out of reach, ship out of sight. Dreams of flight aren't happening tonight. Can't get my bird up in the sky, all 'cause the lift just had to die. I'm waiting for an elevator, but it ain't coming now or later. Trapped in this station, can't even play. Star Citizen keeps locking me away. Oh, CIG, won't you hear our plea? Build us some stairs, small price to set us free. Emergency exits for the flare, when the lifts just aren't there. Friends all launched, left me alone. Hear their engines, hear them drone. But I'm still here in this steel tomb, pressing buttons in my frustrated gloom. I'm waiting for an elevator, but it ain't coming now or later. Trapped in this station, can't even play. Star Citizen keeps locking me away. So here I stand in endless wait, praying this door ain't sealed my fate. Till that patch day comes along, I'll be singing this elevator song. So here I stand in endless wait, praying this door ain't sealed my fate. Till that patch day comes along, I'll be singing this elevator song.
All right, guys, how's it going today? Welcome back to another episode of the Captain's Log, and as the title says, hey, we're back. It's been 2 weeks that we weren't doing any shows. Unfortunately, we had just conflicting schedule issues. We weren't able to get all together, and today looks to be a bit of a mess as well. We've got Krendor here with me today, but we'll have a few more joiners as the podcast goes on. Krendor, say hi.
Hello.
There he is. Good old Krendor, master of logistics. All right. So, got a few things to talk about. Not a whole lot today. Uh, so, one of the topics we're going to be talking about is um, the Hornet, uh, Hornet Mark II Heartseeker, and the associated package, and how that may look for you as a player uh, looking to buy. The other topic is we're going to be talking about CIG's decision to uh, focus more on bug fixes and I would hope quality of life, probably not, but definitely content. They said they put a pretty fine point on that one. So bug fixes and content is the two things they're focusing on for this coming year. Um, so yeah, let's jump right into it. The first topic, actually, you know what? We'll talk about the Hornet last. Let's go ahead and talk about CIG and their decision.
Okay.
So, Krendor, you suggested that topic to me, and I quite like it. So what's your original take on CIG's move for this?
So my take on this, I have a very strong opinion in that they currently call the game an alpha, right? And they have been very firm over the years in it being an alpha. And in game development, typically an alpha is when you are still in the early stages of building the game and you're adding core features to it, right? And you're
Right.
not really doing a lot of bug fixing because that's not the point. Because whenever you add a core feature, it's going to break other things. It happens every time, especially with a game like Star Citizen.
Oh
So
yeah.
what what my problem with this decision to focus on bug fixing is like they're going to spend the next 6 months working on bugs. They're going to get the game to a really good playable state. And then they're going to get to a point where they're like, "Okay, maybe now we can add a feature." And they're probably going to do it light, like just maybe like one small feature to test the waters. And let's say it's EVA, right? Like the EVA rework where they add push and pull. Um,
Right.
that is a system that permeates every aspect of the game because whenever you're not piloting a vehicle, you're technically EVAing, whether there's gravity or not. And so for the push pull thing, that only applies in zero gravity. However, that system still is active when you're on a planet. It's just not being used, right? Because it's part of the EVA system.
Right.
So let's just take an example of like you're in a caterpillar and you lose your gravity generator and you don't have any O2 or whatever in your suit, right, to propel yourself and you have to rely on push pull. What happens when they've been focusing solely on bug fixing and then they add this mechanic in and it causes 80 million bugs to appear out of nowhere. And then they have to go back and redo 6 months of work. They don't add new features for that period of time. And at that point, we're now at a year because it was 6 months to get to where they add the new EVA thing. And then it's another 6 months to fix those bugs that it introduces. Then they add another feature and it does the same thing again. You, so, like, my point here is they're creating, in my opinion, a cycle where they're going to be adding features because the game is still in alpha. They're very adamant about this. They still have lots of core features they're yet to add that they're planning on adding.
Right. They haven't
And
stated that they're feature complete yet with the persistent
absolutely
universe.
not. Right. They're absolutely not. And they won't be until their 1.0 release. Like they showed us at CitizenCon what the features they want to have in the game for quote full release. But obviously they're going to keep adding more beyond that.
I might actually have
Um,
a picture of that. Keep talking. Go ahead.
yeah. So my problem, you can't treat the game like a beta while it's still in alpha because those two modes of development are incompatible with each other. You can't bug fix around features that aren't implemented into the game yet because you don't know how it's going to affect the code. You can do all the bug fixes in the world. They could get it perfectly optimized for what the current build is. The second they add a new feature, it's going to break in some major way. I guarantee it. It happens every time with this game. It happens all the time with games in general. You tweak one number and the whole thing could crash just because code is very sensitive, you know. It really depends on how robust your architect on your writing is and like how well everything works together. And with Star Citizen, it does not. It just does not work well together. It never has. It probably never will. And so I just don't understand this move at all. I feel it's a huge waste of time to focus on playability for the game because as we all know, it is an alpha. It is a demo of a game that will be released in the future. It is not currently a fully released playable game. And to treat it like it's going to be one by doing all these bug fixes, I feel it's a waste of time.
Right, so I've got a picture here. This isn't the what they declared everything that's going to be in 1.0. I don't have that screen, but I'm
Okay.
gonna go ahead and put this one up. And I'll also um, forward it to you, Krendor. Think. There you go. So that's the picture that I've got up on screen right now. And it doesn't have everything, but it gives you the general idea of where they're going for 1.0. I mean, they have 5 solar systems there. They
Hmm.
have, you've got the 6 planets in Pyro, 3 planets in Nix, 2 planets in Castra, 4 planets in Terra. So of everything done right now, they still have 9 more planets to go, and who knows
Right.
how many moons. Plus all of the guilds and the features that they're talking about for cyclical gameplay, as they
Hmm.
described it.
Yeah.
So, and not to mention new areas. Like they haven't even. So 2 years ago in last CitizenCon, they talked about the UGFs, and the UGFs were an acronym that they dubbed uh, for underground facilities. Uh, yeah, UGF, underground facility. Um, but all we have are these big structures on the surface. There's nothing underground yet. They haven't even developed the underground. I mean, they have. They haven't put it out. Uh, but there's supposed to be a huge cavernous expanse underneath these huge facilities that
Hmm.
allow us to go and do all different. Supposedly, and according to what they said 2 years ago in CitizenCon, which was CitizenCon 2953, um, you could go to one of these facilities and essentially just do missions there for your entire gameplay session because it's supposed to
Right.
be that vast.
Like what they said that the I don't know 2954 with the underground area in ArtCorp.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be something similar to that, but we haven't even gotten that yet, and that's 2 years ago.
Right.
So, and I mean that's not necessarily game. Uh,
It's more
that's not
content,
that's not
but
game
I understand what
mechanic,
you mean.
but it's still an art asset that could,
Uh,
when you add that art asset in, could break something because you have to bootstrap it to all these other different processes, and who knows? I mean, you have to
yeah.
add processes in for some of these things to make it unique, tie it into systems and other things. So.
Mhm. You have to make the code able to actually like display it and like load it and everything.
So I get where you're coming from, but at the same time, there was something else you were saying. I'm trying to remember it now. I kind of got off on a tangent.
Features.
Um,
I was talking about like gameplay features.
right. No, I think it's the okay. So you're talking about how it would take 6 months to patch all the bugs out that they introduced with the new feature,
Yeah, it's
which
just like
means that
a example.
right. So going on that same timeline, let's just say, I mean, if you look at it right now, the game has been in development for roughly 12 years. The active development before that, obviously, had a couple years of kickstarting and getting the ball rolling. Um, so I think it's altogether like 15 years, but even still. Um, so 12 years of active development, and during that time, they've had developers come and go, and new developers take their place, and you've got systems built into the game that haven't been refactored, or that the new developers haven't even been trained on. But it's funny you actually need training on stuff like that. But no, you have to go into the code and you have to understand what the old developer did, so that way if anything happens to it, you can fix it, right? So if you've heard them talk about it multiple times, how there are different developers who are owners of a particular aspect of the game. Um, and what that means is they're the ones who structured and developed that particular function or mechanic or asset or whatever it may be, and they put it into the game. Now, if that person leaves the company and they replace him with someone else, whether that be someone who worked under him, which would be the preferential option because that means they're used to the system already and they can take over and
Hmm.
teach someone else. Um, but if they hire someone in for that position directly, they don't know that system and they're expected to own that system from then on.
Hmm.
And it's anyways, what I'm trying to get at is now you've got all of these different spaghetti code, as a lot of people call it, because that's what it ends up being. Because
What
it
it
starts
is? Yeah.
weaving in and out. It's just in knots. It's for the terms of the analogy, it's covered in sauce and it's all messy. Um, but that's what happens when you stack old code. with new code and newer code and then even newer code. You have all these different mechanics that are in play here, and the oldest code may not cooperate with the newest code. Like a new developer comes in and goes, "Hey, I'm going to build this feature," and they put it in game and realize it conflicts with the code developed for, say, trams or elevators in this case, as we've all been experiencing. Uh, Elevators have been an absolute nightmare. So now you've got a conflict between a new feature that you're trying to get into the game and old code controlling other things like
Yep.
logistics, character logistics. And so now they're stacking bugs on top of bugs on top of bugs on top of bugs. And right now, all they've got in place are band-aids, right? These are just quick fixes that will allow old code and new code to be compatible to a degree,
Right.
just to work. So now they've got to go in, and this is what they're doing with the Squadron 42 after they announced feature complete. Now they're going back through all the code, and they're doing all these bug fixes because as they bug fix, then it uncovers it's an onion. It's an onion of
Mm-hmm.
bugs. So as you uncover one layer, you get another layer of bugs, and you have to fix that layer of bugs and fix that layer of bugs. And I
Right.
think what they're trying to do here, and I'm not trying to like talk them up or anything, but I think what they're trying to do here is they're trying to get down to the core of all the issues and get all the layers resolved. And then when they bring in a new feature, yes, it will inevitably introduce bugs, but it will be the first layer of bugs that they have to deal with rather than 5 or 12.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Right, and I agree with you, but like I just want to point out when they said that Squadron 42 is feature complete, that in game development terms, since that's what we're using here, means that it left alpha development, it's not getting any new features implemented, and it
Right.
has entered beta development where it is getting bug fixes and quality improvements, right? So like
Right.
they might still add a feature here or there, but it's probably not going to be a very important one or one that impacts many systems, right? That's typical in betas. Just like you notice you missed something, you just add it real quick, you do the bug fixing, that's fine. You know, that typically doesn't hinder development unless it has some really bad knock-on effects. Not super common. Especially with a single player game that you can really tune in and optimize. I wouldn't expect it to happen as often as it does with Star Citizen. The problem with Star Citizen with this method is that the game is not feature complete. The game is
Right.
still in an alpha. So like I'm looking at this image that you sent me, and a better example than the EVA mechanic would be engineering. Think about engineering, how
Right.
pervasive that is through every single system that has a resource. If you're driving a car, it has engineering. If you're flying a
Yep.
ship, it has engineering. If
Right.
you're, I wouldn't put it past them, riding the train, it probably has some kind of engineering mechanic inside of it just to determine like scheduling. I don't know what the fuck they would be doing, but I wouldn't put it past them. That's just
Well,
conjecture on my part, though.
that's part of a different system that they have that obviously ties in with engineering. I
Right.
can't, the building, I think they call it the building blocks system. Basically, it for in one hand you have a resource, and in another hand you have a need for said resource, and then the building blocks. No, it's not the building block system. What is it?
Quanta?
No, it's not Quanta either.
No.
It
I know
has to
what you
do.
mean, though.
Yeah, uh, I'm sure I'll think of it eventually. But there's a system in
So,
play that if for instance if a maybe it's just as simple as the resource system. Either way, so you have a ship,
yeah,
and
I
the
think
ship
it's just
has
a resource
needs.
network.
That's it. Resource network. That's the
Yeah,
phrasing
okay.
that they use during CitizenCon. So you have a ship and it has needs, and those needs would be, hydrogen, quantum
Mhm.
fuel, electricity, whatever it may be, and your fuel tanks, your components that you put in your ship that provide those resources that the ship needs. Then the ship starts consuming those resources. Now, engineering is going to come in and tie into the resource network directly because they're the ones that are going to be tampering with how much resource goes where.
Right. So, like,
So,
if a
yeah,
city has a certain amount of hydrogen and a train uses a certain amount of hydrogen, it's gonna probably pull from that pool every time it goes, something like that.
if they even put the trains on that system, but yeah,
I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean that again is conjecture on my part, but knowing them, I really wouldn't put it past them to do that. um, just because they want the realism or whatever. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I digress.
Why is
Um,
my train late? Oh, it ran out of hydrogen. They're
yeah,
getting a hydrogen truck out to the train right now. Just give them a minute.
the refueling, the refueling UI isn't working. Please bear with us.
Oh gosh, not that again.
But like even to that end, right? Like if you have a need for fuel, where do you get the fuel from? You gather it. Fuel gatherer is a job that they have listed here under United Resource Workers.
Yeah.
That is not even close to being implemented in the game. Where have you seen anything like that? I don't even know where you would
They've
go to get hydrogen.
so they've started. I don't know the details on it, but I've heard that it exists. There's ice. There's ice that you
And
can
then you
collect,
process that
and then you
into
process that into
hydrogen and
hydrogen.
oxygen.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. I can see that. But that's again more features that they're not implementing or that aren't implemented yet at the stage where they're doing bug fixes. So like I really wouldn't put it past them when they do add engineering that it would just fucking break everything. And then it's gonna just be another it's gonna be this cycle again where they're like, okay, we've fixed the game enough. Let's go back to focusing on features. Whoops, the feature we added totally destroyed the entire game. Time to go back to focusing on bug fixes. And it's going to be like that for everything that they have listed here that's not implemented, like bounty hunting. They want to update Bounty Hunter V2. I'm pretty sure is what they intend on bounty hunter to mean here in this graphic. I don't think
Should
the
we put
current
a
form is what they want.
should we put a fine point on the parkour athlete that they have outlined in this picture? I mean,
Yeah.
remember 2 years ago when they said, "Oh yeah, you're going to be able to vault anything and climb halfway up ladders and then jump off of them to a ledge." Yeah, where's that?
Where's that? Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be fair, they did improve vaulting. It's a lot better. It's a lot more forgiving than it was, but you still can't
Yeah,
vault anything. Like you
yeah.
really can't vault anything. It still has to be predetermined spots that you vault.
And then of course this year they're like, "Oh yeah, here's the butt slide that's popular in all FPS games now."
Yeah, that no one fucking uses in Star Citizen because it's stupid.
Well, you can
You
can,
go to
can you
Star.
even is it in? I don't think it's in.
I don't know, but no, who's gonna use that? This game does not play
Stompy
like Call of
Stompy would use
Duty.
it. Stompy would
Okay, but
definitely
he's the
use it.
exception. He's like a fucking freak. I love him, but he's a freak. I do love that guy though. But like, except for the outliers, like the game, I think you would agree, plays a lot more like Rainbow Six than it does Call of Duty, right? Where it's like slow, tactical. You really want to check your corners. You want to make sure you're communicating with your firing squad. Like you want to know what's going on. You don't want to just run and gun typically,
Yeah.
especially against players. So like a butt slide, that's nothing but run and gun. The only other use for that would be sliding behind cover, but that's extremely situational. Like if
Yeah,
you're in a
and
position where you need to slide behind cover, you're probably going to die anyway.
honestly, I really hope that they do that they kind of put a finer point on the butt sliding being more repositioning tactic as
Yeah.
opposed to run and gun tactic, because by adding the butt slide, I mean, think about it. In Arena Commander doing gun game or whatever it is they call it, the butt slide is going to be how people literally push around corners. They're going to butt
Oh
slide
yeah.
and aim up, or they're going to come through a corridor, and if you've got any kind of hallway, people are just going to come around, slide down that hallway as far as they can get,
Mhm.
and then they're going to jump. Like it always comes with a slide then jump, slide then jump, slide then jump, and that's
Yeah.
that's how the running gun FPSers are going to use this. 100%.
Yeah. I played Call of Duty Black Ops 6. I've seen it happen. It's absolutely what it's going to be like.
But I mean, I'm interested in the mechanic. And when I first saw it, I was disgusted by it, to be completely honest. And
Yeah.
I
It's not going to be without its uses. It's going to be
exactly.
useful, but it's going to be really situational like I mentioned earlier. There's not really going to be many times where you're going to want to butt slide because like if you're in a position like that again, I contest that you just would not survive that position. You'd be very lucky to make it out of something like that because if you need to slide into cover, you're already fully exposed. And in a game like Star Citizen, it really only takes one or two shots in the wrong spot to down you.
Well, that and NPCs aim for center mass.
Yeah.
So if you run and slide in the middle of them trying to fire at you, it's gonna hit you in the head.
Yep.
So I'm interested to see how they do it, but at the same time, I was not very happy to see the mechanic come into the game. I like all the leaning stuff. I would actually,
Leaning is good.
if I had a preference, and actually maybe it is in the game. I can't remember. Um, is there a way to adjust your crouch level? I think there is.
I don't know. I don't know. I've never known there to be. I know
I
that
know there.
there's stand, crouch, and prone.
Yeah, I know that there was something in Tarkov. I mean, in Tarkov there definitely is, but I could have swore there was something in Star Citizen. And if there's not, then I would be more for that mechanic than the slide mechanic. Because
Yeah.
sometimes when you're crouching behind something and you have a visual gap between two boxes on a shelf, you can adjust your height so your barrel is at that level so you can shoot between that gap and still have like 80-90% cover. So that's a feature I would prefer come into the game if it's not already. And it's been so long since I've really done a whole lot of that. I can't recall. Maybe I was playing something else that was very Star Citizen-esque that had that mechanic. Or maybe I'm just having a fever dream.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But so anyways, yeah, I can understand how you would have some reservations about them moving into this style of program or not programming development.
Yeah, to put it lightly. I don't think the two modes are compatible with each other. I think that they exist separately for a very good reason, and that they're just like skirting that reason for the sake of placating people who could not give less of a shit about like what they want to do, even though the whole point of backing the project is to give them the money to do what they want with the game. Like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't line up with their mission in my estimation.
Well, my guess, if I had to make a guess as to why they went this direction, first off, they realized that yes, they have a problem. That problem happens to be, let me get this picture down. Don't need it anymore. The problem that they have is, um, they have like I said earlier, they have layers of bugs. They have bugs upon bugs, and all they
Yep.
have are tentative fixes, but basic, uh, little snippets of script that help one side talk to the other side, right? It's like writing something in JavaScript and writing something in Python. Those are two incompatible codes unless you give it a translation library so that way they can talk to each other. And
Right.
that's in this case, it's an old set of code with a new set of code, obviously the same language, I would hope. But now they have to make them work together. They're incompatible because of the way that it was written. And now they've got to make little bridging scripts to help the old code and new code communicate, which introduces even more bugs and more
Yeah.
issues and complications. So I hope that their goal is to try and remove the layers of onion to get to the root issues. But I agree that it can be a very dangerous slope of basically toggling back and forth between development and bug fixing and development and bug fixing and development. It's just going to delay the project even longer. But
Yeah. That's
in
what I see happening.
in the other sense, this is a very unique game in the sense that it is a game that is both in production and live playable. Very few games
Right.
in alpha state ever have any kind of live servers for the gamer audience. So that's unique to them. And they
Yep,
did it
that's fair.
because they did it because in order to kickstart, they needed to give something to their backers. And in this case, they're like, "Hey, um, play it as we develop it." Probably not their wisest idea, but I mean, I'm enjoying it so far, even with all the
I have
bug
enjoyed it.
issues.
I'm taking a break for personal reasons right now, not relevant to the game's development, but like I still enjoy the game. I still keep up with it. I still like, I'm reasonably informed. I'm right there with you. Like there's no other game like this. Fuck,
Yeah.
it's very unique, but I don't know if that is like a good enough reason for them to break tradition like this, where it's just a mix of alpha and beta. I don't know if that makes sense to me personally.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure myself. I do hope that it, I hope that it's only this year. I hope they take the year to squash a bunch of bugs and then flop back to development and just knock out a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, Perfect.
and then
Looks
they
like
don't repeat it when they add new features that inevitably make new bugs.
all
That would
right.
be my hope.
So
Hello, everyone.
we finally got everyone in
Apologies.
here.
We had
Only
a mishap. One of our pilots slammed into a station on an op. We had to get mad
Aw.
rescue, and then we had to end up getting, we had to get the deed done in the end. We got it done. We're good. Sorry about the late. We just got docked at station, so we're
We're gonna have to
we're
run
here.
more pilot training exercises.
Hover bike pilot training exercises.
Hover bike?
Specifically.
Oh, that's
hover
even
bike
worse.
pilot.
Oh, Omega. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, it wasn't me.
So let me just quickly bring the stream up to speed for anyone listening in. We just had Stompy, Acid, and Omega join on the podcast. Uh, all members of Hellstern Interstellar Tactics, um, and the operation that they had hoped to finish up 30 minutes sooner took them an extra 30 minutes to, Star Citizen stuff, guys. We all
Except
know how
not
this
Bob
goes.
time, at least we weren't. It wasn't 30 minutes of trying to get prepared. It was just 30 minutes of like things going wrong in the op.
Of trying to wrap
So,
it up,
like,
yeah.
better than it could have been.
But anyways, we were
the
talking about Star Citizen's or CIG's move to kind of treat the game as more of a beta state, basically focusing more on the bug fixes and the content and the polish as opposed to new features, new core game mechanics, which they have not announced yet. That's the Persistent Universe is feature complete, so therefore there is going to be more stuff that they're going to be adding in mechanic wise. So
Yeah.
just real quickly, I mean, Krender's already aired his opinions. We'll go around the table real quick and kind of just briefly get your guys' opinions before we move on to talking about the Heartseeker. Stompy, what's your take on how CIG is going to be treating this next year of development?
I'm a glass half full kind of person, and if you know me, I'm always trying to make shit work. And from what Jared's body language really made me feel a little more confident that he had a light bulb, and if he had a light bulb, I'm sure other employees at CIG are going to have that same light bulb as well. Not sure how many of them, but I have got a 70-30 glass half full perspective as far as how the year's going to go currently.
It's 70-30. It's not half, my friend.
Glass more than half full.
Exactly.
That's that extra.
We've got a child's glass full.
That extra
what we've
percentage
got
is
here.
backwash, guys. All right. Acid, what's your take on this?
I kind of agree with Stompy in the sense that, like, and the one thing I preface is, like, I know also that in the past years they have made statements and claims about how they're about to change their approach. And I haven't been around for those statements and claims. So I know that the elders of the community will be like, yeah, but when I see it, I'll believe it type vibe. So
Right.
I take that I think about that, but there's still a part of me that kind of agrees with Stompy. Like, if there's a person like Jared who might have a light bulb, and he kind of took much more of the Star Citizen player's approach in his questioning and started to play more devil's advocate, asking the harder questions that we sometimes want to ask. And like Stompy said, if there's more people that work up there that think like that, they're going to start pushing that. And when two things will happen: either they get pushed out because they're not fitting the narrative, or else they make a change. I hope that change is made, and I believe that they're going to work on it. I believe they're going to spend this next year really focusing on fixes and stability. And they'll probably won't keep true to their word. I bet we see maybe a couple of things that come in that are like arguably a feature and not content.
Like
But
engineering.
yeah, yeah, like I'm like I could see them just trying to force something in and be like, no, like because like engineering is a great example because they've already been working on it. So they could be like, no, we've been working on it. So it's not a new feature. But I am
But it's not
positive
in the
next
Semantics.
Zombie.
game.
No,
Semantics,
it's not.
guys.
Yeah, it's not in the game. So I
Well,
would
there's
say
also the hacking
that's a new
gameplay.
feature.
So you've
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
you've got the cryopods, you've got the hacking gameplay, you've got the push pull mechanic, you've got the sorry, what do they call it, magnetic hands or something like that. You've got
Right,
the
yeah, yeah.
vaulting system that needs to be improved, which was 2 years ago now.
It sounds
And
like Star Citizen needs a Ripper dock is what it sounds like.
right,
Yeah.
and then this last one which you were just talking about, right? So that's like 5 things right
Mhm.
there. Those are
Yeah.
5 new features that they need to add into the game that have been promised between 1 to 2 years now, and they're not here.
Yeah, and that's why, like, for someone like yourself and Krindor, who have been here, and even Omega, who have been here way longer than Stompy or myself, I think Stompy and I still have those residual honeymoon phase thoughts where we're like, no, they're gonna fix, like, they're fixing, you know? And that's why I'm like, I want them
They're
to,
not.
I hope they do, but I also kind of believe y'all when you're like, no, that's just the same utterances they've spoken for years.
I
Well,
mean,
it
they
is
did
different
preach
from what
server
they've
meshing,
said.
and they did get this far with Pyro. Now, I really feel like the whole base building is going to be a huge, huge step,
Oh yeah,
and
that's
it's
another feature.
one of those things
That's
that is
6.
bigger than they
Yeah.
feel that they can chew. Personally, however, if they do get it right with what we've all kind of discussed and thought that it could be, I mean, I'll be real. Base building ain't coming for another 2 years. I'll say it.
I would agree with that. I could totally get behind that mindset.
But like, I'm not disheartened by it. I'm like thinking that I'm glad that they're taking a step back to focus on the smoothness of things. And that's the problem too with the player base, is that they want the instant gratification. They want it now. And it's like, you're not going to get it now. If they talk about it, that's great. Just keep in mind and put that on the back burner in your head and stay excited about it. Because at least they're talking about it. At least they're discussing it. At least they want to do it. You know what I mean? At least goals in mind as a company, and they weren't communicating that to the community. I think we'd have a little bit of a problem there. But the fact that they're kind of baiting us at the idea of it, and I mean baiting in a endearing term,
Yeah.
in the sense that like it's something that they're getting their goals set and geared towards. Now, albeit maybe better servers not rented out by Amazon comes first. I'd be cool with that. That just means more stability. You know what I mean?
That's
And you need
unlikely.
fucking you need stability for base building, bro. If they're gonna instance that shit and this say goes away when the last person at work pops off, I mean shoot. But like let's be real, it's gonna be a fucking clusterfuck if they put bases in right now in the next week. Like there ain't no way in hell. So I'm looking forward to the goals they have.
What were you about to say a minute ago,
Oh,
Krindor?
sorry, Krendor. Yeah.
No, you're
Okay.
fine. I'm curious about like because coming from people who
So,
have been around longer.
Just like by the nature of the way this game is made, Kelbuck was talking about it earlier. He used the analogy of an onion where they have layers and layers of bugs that they're trying to peel back one at a time. When you add a feature back in, if you follow that analogy, try adding a layer back into the onion. It's not possible. What happens to the onion? It falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So the way I see it personally is they're gonna find every bug that's like plaguing the game right now. They're gonna fix it. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be optimized for the current build, and then they're gonna feel confident enough to add a feature, and it's going to reset all of the progress they made over however long
Okay.
it took them, right?
Yeah. I
Because
get
they're
that.
adding another layer back onto the onion, and so I don't know what that would look like. I guess it depends on what knock-on effects there are or like what the feature is. For something big like engineering, that pervades literally every aspect of the game,
Yeah.
I think that it would have a lot of knock-on effects that would not be good and would really not be easily fixable, if at all, just like based on how big and complicated the game is. So like, I don't share the same confidence in you, not because I don't believe that they can fix it. It's just that like historically they've shown that that's not how their game works, and it
Yeah.
also in general is just not how game
Yeah.
development works.
That's
So
fair.
like they're really going against industry norms now. If you thought they were going against it before, they are now breaking the alpha beta protocol like completely because they're treating the alpha like a beta.
Oh,
So
Because it says done with an
I
air
don't share
confidence.
this. Yeah,
that's
like I'm not confident in their ability to do that successfully, because if that were possible, I feel like a lot more production companies would be making games that way, but they don't. And I think that's for a very good reason. It doesn't work.
yeah.
What if a lot
That's
of production
understandable.
companies get bought out by bigger companies, and the smaller companies who have hopes and dreams of what the game could become and want quality and the fun of it aren't able to do that? And so that's what kind of CIG is resembling, is that they're going against the norms because they don't have anybody telling them no.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, they do have someone telling them no, but they don't listen to them because the people that tell them
Yeah,
no are
exactly.
their fucking players. Like,
It's
Like,
people
I'm
like
sh-
me.
exactly. I'm sure there are people with that same mindset who like think about it that way, which is a very logical reason
I
as to
want the
why they
game to
won't pull it
succeed.
off. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
don't get me wrong, I really want them to get this right. I've put money into this game. Like, I
Mhm.
believe in their vision, but I really don't think this is the way forward. And I feel like people who are just blindly like, "Oh, yay, bugs are being fixed. The game's going to be great," are not looking into the future. And they're
Yeah.
definitely
Into
not
now.
looking at the history of the game, you know?
Yeah. That's why like
Look,
I feel reserved because I don't know enough about the history to like be able to make the most educated
Well, let's
like
look.
guesses.
let's give Omega his minute of fame. What's your
Love
I
to
take
guess
on
hear
what I'd
his
this?
say as
take.
well. Based off of history, based off of the fact that um, CIG works the way it does and how it doesn't actually go with the norm of every other company, which is both a good and a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the bug fixes was going to do fine as far as for the now, but once they put in base building, once they put in more features that were designed for pyro, such as the solar flares that makes pyro as dangerous as it is, why it's
Right.
not as inhabited as say Stanton, that's when shit's gonna break again. And it's gonna break and it's gonna be worse, and everybody's gonna complain and whine and bitch about it because it's not working like it's
Is
intended.
that
It's supposed
is
to be
that
working
technically a
fine.
feature that they said they weren't going to add?
They weren't going to add?
Well, no, because they're focusing on bug fixing, right? It's,
Yeah,
it's a
Right.
feature. It's a feature.
it
They,
is
they,
a feature right now.
in order
Yeah.
for Pyro to be Pyro, you got to add a feature.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, then I wouldn't be
The
surprised if we
pyro
don't get pyro flare dying stuff and maybe even
again,
until like Stompy said with base building, a year or
the
two.
pyro that we have right now is essentially a bigger
It's a bigger
Stanton
Stanton, yeah.
with that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's lawless. That's it.
And
Yeah,
I'm
I mean
okay.
it's
I'm
Which is
okay with
not
the
even
lawlessness, really.
but it's not even
Yeah, I'm
lawless
fine with
because
it.
if you kill somebody over there, you get a crime stat. So it's
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't think that
that's
there should be crime
if
stat
it's
at
a
all.
lawless system, there shouldn't be any crime stats given into the system
Right.
unless
Well,
um
to be fair, the only place where you can get crime stat
no,
is
actually there
within
shouldn't be.
range of the gateway station.
yeah.
There
Yeah,
shouldn't be at all because the
no,
gateway
that
station
shouldn't
is
be
not
there.
even
Well, hold on. If they manage to have just enough of a foothold to hold that station, let's say they've got a military presence there, which by the way there should be a military presence there.
there
Yeah,
Um,
should
that's a
be.
whole other conversation about the game.
right.
Is where the fuck
Um,
security went.
so you got a station that's still controlled by the UEE as literally they're just playing gatekeeper. They're not trying to take the system or
Mhm.
trying to patrol or police the
They're just
system.
maintaining the
They're
gate.
just playing gatekeeper. So that station still has communication link with the UEE network. So
Oh yeah,
it
in
would
that
make
case, yeah, that would
sense.
be the only time to do it.
It would make sense that you would get crime stat for doing stupid stuff within the communication range of that station.
Mm-hmm.
I
That
don't
I
agree
agree
with
with.
it like the rest of you, but it does make sense.
Here's what I'll say. I think it's harder of a pill to swallow because it came after they added turrets to Grim. So it seems like those two things are combined in a way to cater to a certain mentality of player in this game.
What?
That's why
No,
it that's
no, we
why
Catering to
don't
it's
cater to
players, you're
them.
crazy.
no.
No,
That's why though that station having comms
we
is
don't.
much more of a
No,
problem
we
for
we
me.
don't cater to Bobs. No, of course not. Just station
Yeah.
warfare. Cough, cough.
Yeah.
Planetary shielding. Cough, cough.
But see, that's the thing. When it comes down to it, the bug fixing is going to be great if it actually happens. More than likely, they'll break other things when they're trying to fix the thing. So
I'm glad you and I are on the
because
same page with this.
this has happened before, where they're like, "Oh, we're going to focus on bug fixing." It fixed certain things, it broke more things, and then new shit came out, and everything that was fixed got broken, and all the things that were broken got fixed. It's a nonsense thing to even worry about stability if you're trying to
Well,
put
here's
in more
here's
stuff into it.
here's my
It,
take on it.
it should be like a mix of the two.
So
So
so here's my take on the whole bug fixing cycle, right? Release a patch. Okay, release a patch. It's gonna come with bugs. It's gonna break a bunch of stuff. Fix those bugs. Don't roll out new content on top of. Like don't just band-aid it. When
Mhm.
you roll out a patch and they go, oh, the such and such isn't working. Like, all right, let's use real life experience. So they roll out a patch and now elevators aren't working. You can't get to your hangar. You can't get out of Habs. You can't get out of medical. All elevators busted. Okay,
Mhm.
100%. So they go, oh, well, players are crying and we're going to get a whole lot of bad PR. We got to fix this. How can we fix this quickly? Okay, let's just put a slap of Band-Aid on. Okay, Band-Aid, boom.
Mhm.
Now the elevators are working, okay, but they're not fixed. So now when a new content patch comes out, because no one's going to go back and actually fix those elevators,
Mhm.
now they're going to roll out new content, and that's going to introduce a whole new slew of bugs, which
Yep.
might or might not break the band-aid that they put on the elevators. And
Now
now
let
they
me
got to
ask
make
you
a new
this.
band-aid for the elevators and for the new shit that they just introduced.
Which one is worse in two standards? Which one's worse for looks of the game, and which one's worse for us as the player and you all's mind? If it is what Kelbeck said, and they just do the band-aid method, and every time there's a thing, they like slap a quick band-aid on it, and then they rip that band-aid off later to slap a new one. Or with the example of elevators, if we sat and we dealt with this elevator problem we're dealing with right now, if we dealt with this until October, and then in October they fixed it, and they came out and they said this is fixed, we fixed it, this will never happen again, and it never happened again. Which one's worse? That almost like 3/4 of literal terrible instability, or 3/4 of constant new band-aids? Like
Well,
what is worse? And I don't
before I
know, like in
answer,
my head I try to weigh those, but what is which one's harder to deal with?
Yes.
you have to understand that bug fixing won't take 2 or even 3 quarters. At least it shouldn't. Like
No,
if you roll
I know
out a
it
new
shouldn't.
feature, then the bug fixing should happen within that quarter that you rolled that out. If it doesn't happen in that quarter, you have some major internal issues.
And that's the
Um,
hypothetical I'm living in. If they have major internal issues, so it took them until October to fix this. Would you rather live in the world where it takes 8 months for them to fix the elevator problem we have right now? Or would you rather be able to play the game consistently with bugs and then them just keep putting band-aids on problems as they keep building?
It's a little bit of both,
it's it's
actually.
it's six
It's,
one way, half
it's
dozen another. It's
yep.
just as damaging because the
I'm gonna be
band-aids are just
honest
gonna
with you.
break.
My position on this, my answer to your question, they should not be doing what they're doing at all currently. Like,
Mhm.
and by that I mean like, don't even give us a live service game. Like, just don't, because
That's
the
yeah.
game is so fucking complicated, and like, it just to me doesn't make sense that they would prioritize playability
Mhm.
over features when they still haven't finished building the game. It just does not make sense to me. And
I
so like
agree.
I I would be fine if they wanted to give us like a specific build of the game, and that's just what the live version is, and they continue development on their own in the background, right? Like if they want to do bug fixes, great. Don't move on past 4.0.1. Like
Yeah.
just don't. Do not do that. Develop 4.0.2 on your own in your studio. Do that for 4.1, 4.2, 4. Whatever until you are ready to fucking bring us to the new stage of the game 1.0. I'm done. I'm like fed up with it, honestly. Like 4.0 I feel is a great spot for the game to just freeze for a while. Just be a playground players can fuck around in, and then
Mhm.
when 1.0 comes around, we have 3 new systems to play around with. We have a bunch of new gameplay mechanics to play around with. They've spent the time bug fixing it internally. Like I don't think it would be hard to extrapolate what bugs would happen with the new mechanics, given all the data they've collected over the years, how they
Mhm.
know players interact with the game, and like, I don't know. That I know that's kind of a radical opinion, but that's just where I'm at with the game currently.
Do you
I
know how
don't
many
see the point
people
in
would
continuing as they are.
You
know
the
how many
only
people would back out of this game if they didn't have the game access? You're talking nonsense. You're talking like as if they actually can operate this game and get it all ready without anybody putting in feedback and putting in fresh more money into it.
see,
Like I
and
said,
that's
What
it's
kind of nonsense
radical.
is that?
well, and it's more on the radical side, but I feel like that is the only hole that could be poked in that idea is do they need live data the live numbers consistently, because you're right, they have tons of data from the past of 10 plus years, however long the game's been, but like I I know in the ISC live that they did, the 3 hour one, I remember they talked about needing the information of that mass amount of players in order to bring out the problems that
Right.
actually are underlying. Do you think that they have enough and they really don't need that?
I think
Well,
that any
for
data they need to fix bugs in a live environment, they can get with whatever build they put out when the game is done. I don't think that that needs to happen in real time as they build the final version of the game.
Hmm.
Because, like, look at it this way: if they release the game as a beta state, right, where they say this is what Star Citizen 1.0, this is the beta, you're allowed to play this in a live environment. The caveat being, we need you to fuck the game up royally so that we get data, so that we can
Yeah.
do beta things and bug fix. That personally, I think would go a lot smoother than what they're doing currently and what they're
Yeah,
planning on doing.
I
no, I
wouldn't
honestly
disagree with
agree.
that.
So, like, I don't see why it needs to be a live alpha. I don't get it.
I feel like the only reason, which isn't a really valid reason for the sake of the game, but the probably only reasoning for doing it is just money. Just
Oh,
like,
absolutely. They need funding.
yeah. And they probably
They get
could
money
have
from ship
enough
sales.
without it, but it's just greed.
Yeah.
yeah, if they were to lock, like, all right, so if they were to take the game and get everything that they've got going on right now, all the features in game, all the content in game, if they were to just knock out all the bugs and make it absolutely smooth, butter smooth, no issues, I can wake up in a hab, I can go down to my hangar, I can call up a ship, I can load up that ship, I can put the ship away, I can call the ship back up, and the cargo that I put in is still there. Yeah, that's another problem, by the way. Um, I can leave, I can go to another location, I can leave the ship at that location, I can go off somewhere else on a different vehicle, I can come back to the location I left my ship at, my ship will still be there, get back in my ship, whatever the case may be, whatever my journey may be throughout anyone's possible course through the game, if they fixed all that and made it so that way it was an absolute dream to play, I'd be satisfied with accepting that and waiting until beta.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm suggesting here is like get the current version of the game to a very playable state and then just leave it there. Don't fucking touch it.
But here's the problem. They're not even going to hit beta. Remember, 1.0 isn't beta, that's live release.
Yeah, which doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
They
They
haven't even
can't-
talked about a
they-
beta.
1.0,
I
1.0
don't-
should be
yeah.
beta,
I agree. I fully agree. And that's
and then 2.0 should be live.
right. And I think
Yeah.
that was the point I was trying to make, is that they should just focus on making the game and then worry about bug fixing after they've made the game. Right? Like, what you want to call it, whatever. But
Mhm.
fucking there something has to give. They can't have it both ways. It just won't, it will not work long term. It might
The
work
big-
short term, but it won't work long term.
Let's say they did that. Let's say they did what they should do. Because I agree that realistically, that's how it should be done. The reality probably is that they would never, because they're in too deep. If they did, though, like, do you think they could recover from that? Like, just taking the game out from all the players' feet right now, everybody, just shutting the game down and just outright being like, all right,
Well-
nobody's playing now. Like, we're just gonna start building it and until X day. Like, they don't give us a date. even.
That's not what I'm
No.
suggesting.
Okay,
Without
fair. No,
They
no,
won't-
and that's fair.
They won't survive that
Yeah,
well,
they would
to-
not survive that, and that's not
to-
what I'm saying they should
because
do.
people
Fair,
want to play
okay.
the game. They don't
So
want to wait
Acid,
for it.
to answer your question specifically, in order for a studio to survive that kind of development, they have to have a sugar daddy. Sorry, I meant to say
Yeah.
they have to have a publisher. But if they have a
Same thing.
publisher, then they're beholden to the publisher's desires, not the player's desires. In which case, that would completely undermine the whole what we've gotten up to this point.
Yeah.
So
Also,
they would not survive like shutting everything down. Now they wouldn't have to pay for the server, so they'd save money there, but they also wouldn't have any new flow of income. So that is a
not
problem.
just that, but not just
Yeah.
that, but that'll also go against Chris Roberts' desire of how the game is developed.
Yeah.
So, but no, so it would not survive, not without some kind of other way to bring in some kind of funding, and the only other way at the moment would be to have a publisher bankroll the rest of it.
So more
Yeah.
your stance, Krendor, is this is what they should have done from the start, not this is what they should do. They should. I kind of understand now.
Yes and no. It would have been best if they did it from the start, but I don't think they can't do it now. I think they could do it right now if they wanted to.
Okay.
I think that the game is reasonably fun enough and has enough content in it that, well, I mean, like, aside from adding like events and shit, like, I don't think it needs
The
more.
only thing that it really needs is just to, for any new ships that they make, is to be put into the game. And that's
Right,
it.
yeah. And then you can bug fix
Otherwise-
those and that's fine.
Yeah, that's because they're looking for data, right? But the best data they can get for it is with new ships that come out, should be put into the game so that they can test it.
I just
building
feel-
should be part of beta.
I feel
and it
like
should be
their
the
goals and
1.0.
objectives are just off. I feel like they're
Yeah.
not focusing on what they should be to get production faster. They
Fully
need to get
agree.
faster in production because, I mean, 1 year should be enough to get a whole system. So everything that they announced in CitizenCon, what number was it? Not last year, the year before, CitizenCon 2953. Okay. Everything they announced in 2953, by the time 2954 came around, we should have already had all that.
Or at least a good chunk of it.
Otherwise, there's no point in putting it in the CitizenCon. If it's not going to make it in that year, don't put it in CitizenCon. That's the whole point of what CitizenCon is if you're going to have an annual CitizenCon, then your CitizenCon is talking about what you did the past year, how you got to where you're at now at CitizenCon, and the future vision for the next year. And then at the next CitizenCon 2954, we should have gotten what all they did, the roadblocks and stuff that they hit and how they overcome that stuff in 2953, and then talking about the next CitizenCon 2955. And that's generally what they do. In 2954 and 2953, they talked about the ships they were going to be developing in the next year, the next 12 months. Now, 2953 ships that they said were going to be out by 2954, they didn't hit the mark. They missed on 3 ships, I think. Maybe it was 4. And then in 2954, they didn't re-add one of the ships and then added a few more ships. And then literally in the first month after 2954, all of a sudden we had like 3 of the 12 ships, or 3 of the 10 or 12, I think it was 10 ships that they had already advertised. I don't know why they even put them up in that silhouette if they were just going to immediately release them. So honestly, their development cycle is horribly, horribly mismanaged.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other content creators and other people from the development community that have commented as such on that particular point. People with more knowledge than I are along that same thought process. So, but let's go ahead and put this to rest. Let's move over to the Heartseeker, because it just came out. We've played around with it a bit, and we've got our own opinions. And let's talk about let's focus on the points of where it fits in the current meta, its use cases, and thirdly, if you would make any changes, what would they be?
Mhm.
So let's go ahead and throw that out there. Who wants to start?
Wait, what was it again that we?
The well, not I guess. Let's go with this just the Super Hornet. Let's forget the Heartseeker upgrade package. Let's just go with the Super Hornet Mark II. So where does the Super Hornet Mark II currently fit in the meta? Does
Mm,
it even have a place?
in the meta, maybe
Middle
it
heavyweight.
depends.
They
It
could pitch
depends
up
on.
against a Warden or a Vanguard for sure.
Well, it depends on what meta we're talking about. And like, if we're talking about just PvP fighter meta, they're very like on the edge of that meta,
Yeah.
just so slightly. If we're talking about like ops and pirating and taking down vessels, taking down like in that style big group gameplay, there's more of a place for it. But as a fighter and being right up in it and a dueler, slugging it out, it is not good enough.
Is it
It's
worth putting
just a
2
little
people in
slow.
a fighter when it could easily be 2 fighters?
No, and it never is still. Like it hasn't been and it's still not. Like I would always say you should put 2 bodies in 2 ships as opposed to a Scorpius. That's just how it is for now. If you have
Right.
8 bodies, I would still say put 8 bodies in 8 ships as opposed to a Polaris.
So at what size category with the current ships at our fingertips? At what size category does putting multiple bodies in a single ship make sense?
I mean, like the Polaris, that's realistically where like it's like you actually can do some stuff with like skilled gamers, mildly skilled gamers. They don't have to be that great, but I mean, even at a hammerhead size, which is like the next one below, it's just all you need is like 2 decently trained pilots, and it's done.
Yeah,
So why not have eight of your pilots fighting those 2 people you could encounter as opposed to all eggs in one basket?
right. All right. Omega, do you have anything to weigh in, or Krendor?
I've been a little too out of the loop to discuss fighter metas. Like I said, I haven't been playing lately, but I've been keeping up with what I can. This is kind of one of those things that I can't really keep up with.
Fighter metas. It really just depends on the composition of your team. But because in the same aspect with the Hammerhead, 8 fighters against Hammerhead fully crewed. Depending on how the fighters are, the Hammerhead could win because it's designed to be anti-fighter. But they can also the fighters can at the equal measure win. Just depends on their fighter. So
The only problem that so when it comes to NPCs, the Hammerhead is absolutely powerful. However, when it
Yeah.
comes to players, the Hammerhead severely lacks, and it really needs point defense systems to make up for the fact that humans are not computers and they're not all knowing and able to spot something from all directions. Because that's what it is right now, right? So
Mhm.
a turret gunner is able a turret gunner on an NPC ship is able to see 360 degrees and be aware of everything out to a certain range. Let's say that range is the range of the gun. So let's say it's 3 kilometers. So as soon as a missile or a torpedo or another ship comes within range of 3 kilometers, that turret gunner immediately snaps to that position and starts firing because it knows that you're there. It's a computer. It knows
Yeah.
all the zeros and ones that are going
Yep.
on. You can't hide zeros and ones from a computer that, you know, it,
This is why I think NPC gunners for players is going to be ridiculous.
well, see,
I
here's the thing.
I think by that time they'll be toned down. I don't think they're going to be as strong as like an outright full NPC ship.
Even
Depends
though,
on the gunner too, because even though they'll have tiers, um, even the
well,
lowest tier is going to still be competent enough to
an
do
NPC
decent
gunner,
damage.
or even an AI system aboard the ship, you can help give it handicaps. Basically, you can say it's going to have this much of a delay before it tracks its target, or you can say it's going to have, you can create an array of delays, right? And you can have it
Mhm.
randomly roll out of the array what kind of delay that particular uh, turret gunner is going to have, right? So let's say it's anywhere from 1 to 5 seconds is the array in increments of quarter seconds, right? So for every second, you have 4 increments that could be decided on.
Mhm.
Um, so that being said, now you've got an array of time that you can tell the computer it's going to randomly select, and it cannot shoot until that delay time has elapsed. And then when it shoots, now you can go, okay, we're going to give you an accuracy debuff, which is basically going to say, we know you can freaking, you know, thread a needle at 3,000 yards uh, with an attrition. But we're going to say instead that you are going to you're going to have a window, a bloom, right? You're going to have a circle around your target, and each time a round fires, we're going to tell that round to, we're going to tell it where to go. So, and that's done before the NPC pulls the trigger. And so it's going to randomly calculate a spot within that circle, and then that's where that shot's going to go. If you happen to be in that spot at that time, it hits. If you don't happen to be in that spot at that time, it doesn't hit. So those are the two different methods that they use to dumb down AI. Is it ideal? No, because it's a computer and you can basically guess, or you can analyze its responses and then counter those responses. Whereas a person, a player, the player has to be alert. They have to have cognitive understanding of their situation. They have to know their craft. They have to know what weapons they're dealing with. The computer already knows this. It's automatically configured into their calculations. They don't have to do anything, any heavy lifting. The player, on the other hand, has all the heavy lifting to do, because your eyes have to perceive that there's a threat. Then your hands have to react according to the perceived threat, and that's assuming that you've even perceived there's a threat. If I come up behind you, Omega, right, and even if I'm a red marker, which means your system is automatically going to go tell you that there's a new threat
Yep.
verbally. You're gonna hear it. But
Bogey.
now you're gonna, yeah, exactly. Now you're gonna look down at your radar, and if your radar is not functioning, or if the red pip that goes around your outer border of your screen is not showing, or whatever that may be, your perception, now you have to visually scan the sky, and that is a lot of time, right? And even if you have those systems working, you still have to look down. You go, okay, he's behind me, and looks like up. Now you've got to react to that after finding out that information. There's so much delay in that that no human can possibly outmatch an AI that is turned to, the umpteenth degree.
Yeah. You also have the problem though, the other big problem and why a ship like a Super Hornet or almost any multi-crew ship for that matter is never going to outdo a fucking group of light fighters is because of the flight model and the velocities of weapons. Until they fix that,
Mhm.
you're going to have that same like you could do all you want, put out all the ships you fucking want. You can put out a ship that has 16 guns on it, 16 gunners and fucking everything. But if you keep the same flight model with the same velocities, all light fighters are going to do is sit at like 2.3K and just kite the bullets that are coming at them as they still apply damage. And they're just going to hold that position. And you can do it to any ship. You do it to Polaris, do it to Hammerhead, any single ship, because a light fighter or a smaller ship for that matter, even an F8. An F8 is going to be able to control a fight with a Constellation or a Hammerhead easier because it's just got a little more speed than those bigger ships. And until they change that just basic principle and fact, I mean, that's just going to be how it is and how it always will be.
Yep.
All right, so what were the other 2 points I talked about? We
What
talked
would you
about.
change about the Super Hornet? That's like that
Okay,
is a
yeah,
good
yeah.
question.
So yeah, let's go into that. What would you change about the Super Hornet? Is there anything about the Super Hornet? Keep in mind it's a medium fighter that's two-seater and it's slightly bigger than its younger, I guess its older brother, the F7A or the F7C in this case. What do you guys think?
I would I would give it a little more maneuverability. That's one thing. Like it just needs to be a little more agile. It's really really sluggish. And it's not that much bigger than the fucking F7A, you know? Like that's just one thing outright that it should change. It should be more maneuverable. It's not that big.
And it should, if because it is bigger, it should have a little more power to it as well with the engine.
Yeah,
So
speed, speed. I would say you could ask me about any ship. What would I change? I would tell you make it faster with any fucking ship in the game, though. Too. That's
Mm.
I'm gonna pull up the Hornets side by side. I've got the Super Hornet up. What do you want to compare it to? An F7A or do you want to compare it to an F7C?
the Super Hornet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would compare it to an F7A. The F7C has a different DPS. The Super Hornet and then the F7A both have at least mostly the same DPS, unless you're putting on the fucking Tart Seeker turret.
All right. So looking at the metrics, um, you have the F7A Super Hornet Mark II. Sorry, not Super Hornet. The F7A Hornet Mark II and the F7C Super Hornet Mark II. So in terms of maneuverability, keep in mind that it does have an additional seat and it does have an additional 8 missiles on the top ball turret. Um, I believe that's the only differences in regards to this ship. So we have a roll speed of 180 degrees, sorry, 150 degrees per second on the F7A and 140 degrees on the F7C Super Hornet. So that's a 10 degrees per second difference between the two hulls. Do you think 10 seconds of roll or 10 degrees per second of roll is a big enough difference to?
Nah, it should be slower, of course, because it is a little bit bigger, but it should be like very, very incremental. It should be like half that, maybe. I
I
would
would
even argue a little more than half that. They're not
I would
that big
agree.
of a difference.
I think somewhere between 2 and 5 degrees per second should be the maximum difference between that maneuverability. Anyone else have Stompy? Do you have a take on that?
No, I'm all for it. I'm game. Pretty much
Okay.
same.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
So now with the pitch, you're looking at an F7C Super Hornet Mark II at 52 degrees per second, with the F7A coming in at 56 degrees. So that is only a 4 degree difference on pitch. 4 degrees per second. 4 degrees per second is, I'd bring that closer to 2 degrees. I'd cut that in half, personally speaking.
Yeah.
And then on the yaw, you have the F7C Super Hornet coming in at 40 degrees per second, with the F7A coming in at 45 degrees per second. So again, I'd probably cut that down to 2 degrees difference as opposed to the 5 degrees difference it is now. So
Yeah.
as far as maneuverability, it's noticeably different. Like Acid, you said when you were flying it that you noticed a difference, but that's just because you were used to light fighter combat, and to the normal user, they wouldn't perceive that.
Yeah, if you had somebody that was flying, like their daily was a Connie, and they flew an F7A on occasion, and then they pulled out the Super Hornet, they would notice a small amount. You notice a small difference. You'd be like, oh yeah, it's a little bigger. But like when you really get in the nitty gritty, there's so many things that are different about it, which make it the only benefit is that like if you have a gunner, you have advantage over the turn rate of the others that you're fighting that might have a faster turn rate. But that's only if your gunner's good enough. And that's also just an if they're not fast enough to like counter that small amount of time you have their turn rate locked down. Because at the end of the day, that second guy, going back to it, like that second guy has two guns to his name. He would be more beneficial to you in an M50 interceptor with the same two guns to his name. He would just be so like 10 times more beneficial to help you out as opposed to sitting behind you in the same ship. And like I don't like that that's the fact. I like the Super Hornet. It came out, I got it for a bit, flew around, messed with it, even flew with a co-pilot and did a little PvP combat with a co-pilot. And it's cool. I love the concept. I want that concept to be a reality one day where like that's a thing. And even the Antares, like I want to see the Antares out and about and people like, like riding in the backseat, fucking EMPing the fuck out of people and happy doing it. But right now we're
EMP
not
needs to
there.
come up in power.
What's that?
Mhm.
I said EMP needs to come up in strength.
That Yeah, and that's a whole other thing too. But I mean, I just want to see like I want hammerheads to be like when we see hammerheads now at in NPC form doing missions and running into them, like it's actually you have to take a step back and be like, all right, we have to approach this the right way or we'll die. In the old flight model, it was just a piece of cake. Now you have to do it the right way. I want that to still be a thing, like with bigger ships, or if anything, like right now when I fly around in a Hornet and I see a Polaris, I literally am just like, all right, there's nothing I can do unless I'm just want to identify as Van Duel for a little bit because like I just don't have the firepower. And I want that for more. Like I want to see a crude fucking hammerhead and just be like, oh yeah, I'm alone, or it's only two of us. Yeah, we shouldn't pick that fight. We're probably gonna lose. I would rather that be the case. But right now, I mean, it's fun to just be like, yeah, me and Stompy can go roll in a Hornet, run into a fucking hammerhead, and just kite it. Game over.
All right. So here's some other metrics I want to throw at you. Both ships have the exact same signature about them and resistances. So as far
Mhm.
as their missions go, they both have a plus 13. As far as their resistances, they're exactly the same. Um, Here's where they differ. The Super Hornet does have an extra shield, bringing its default shield pool to 5,190 versus the 3,460 of the F7A.
Mhm.
Um, then you've got another interesting. Where is it? Oh, speed. Okay. So as far as speed goes, where did that one go? Here it is. 215 versus 220 SCM speed, no boost. 5 meters per second different.
That between this Super Hornet and the F7A,
Mm-hmm. Super Hornet is
that's not
215 and F7A is 220.
that's reasonable. I really don't think that's a problem. That's the 5 meter a second difference is balanced between those two ships. The pitch and yaw are what needs to be changed because a straight line speed, like barring the whole conversation of the flight model, the straight line speed isn't a problem.
Okay.
It's
On,
it's
un,
okay.
Under boost and nav, or sorry, under boost and SCM, you're looking at 465 meters per second for the Super Hornet versus 479.
See, that's a
almost
little.
15 meters per second different.
I don't know why it's that much. Like in my head, like those should be the same difference as they are in non-boost. I don't understand why that has to be.
I can
I mean, I get maybe every
probably
ship has little differences, you know.
I can probably
but
explain it away. So it's kind of what they do in real world when it comes to fighter aircraft. They'll take a single seat aircraft and then they'll add an extra seat into it and then add more avionics or more whatever it may be that the second seat needs, which adds more weight. So it looks like it's the same
yeah,
airframe, so to speak, just with more weight because they've added more systems into it. So that would explain why it goes slower and why it maneuvers slower, because all the thrusters are the same, all the power plants are the same. So you're looking at, you know, uh, I mean, in propulsion you're looking at 9.8 what is this? 9.8 Gs versus 10.8 Gs. So it's a whole G different just on the forward thrust because it's having to push that much more mass.
yeah.
Yeah, if it's the same engine that they're using, then yeah, that can make sense.
And I would imagine it is. They look like almost identical when it comes to the Super Hornet and the F7A.
So really all it is it's a modification. So like a difference between a single seat F-15 and a two-seat F-15, right? The two-seater F-15 is going to have more weight to it. Obviously, it's negligible, but it's going to have more weight to it because it has the extra seat, it has the extra safety features, it has the extra computers on board that it ties into, whatever systems that the back seat actually needs, whether it's guidance systems or whatnot. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, well, and the tail fin of the Super Hornet is like twice the length of the F7A.
That's weird.
If I remember, maybe it's not a full twice the length, but it is bigger
You
than
know,
the F7A.
now that you make mention of it, honestly, I think I noticed that because when we first landed Hornets in the Larry, we were able to get two of them in very comfortably. But when I put Wang's Hornet into the Larry
yeah,
and then tried to put a Gladius in, the Gladius almost didn't fit. I think it literally is a physically larger ship. It's not even the
well,
same airframe. It's the same power plant, but a different airframe.
in the video where they were the Star Citizen video, YouTube video where they released the Super Hornet, they literally said that how much bigger the tail fin is and how much bigger it is than the F7A. Like that's why I know the tail fin's bigger, is because they said so in the video. I just don't remember if it was double, if it was like a third bigger. They said the measurement. I just can't recall.
Well,
Okay.
if the ship is bigger, then it makes sense why it's also slower.
Yeah, and the slower I have no problem with, but it's like it's that one speed in boost. Like if in SCM, if
I
just
think-
standard SCM forward is a 5 meter a second difference, why is boost a 19 meter a second difference?
The faster
think
you
that
go, the
has
more
to do
drag
with-
you create. Although in
I think
space
that
it
has
makes
to do
no
with the
sense.
frame.
Exactly.
It makes no sense in space, but on atmosphere, because of the bigger frame that the uh, Super Hornet has, it
I
makes
mean,
sense that it has a bigger drag.
Let's
Yeah.
not talk about the mechanics of velocity in Star Citizen.
Yeah, I mean we've already deemed
No.
that speeds in zero gravity are fabricated. We
So true.
literally
They're not
have
coming in with the
governors on
real
all of our
logic.
ships. There's literally governors on all of our ships. We should technically, with our main thrusters, be able to reach near the speed of light, with
Well,
given
So if I
enough
don't
time
like
and
my
space.
governor, I'll write my senator to get it taken away and changed.
do we
Yeah, okay.
do we want to like talk about how velocity actually works, or
I
Or do
mean,
we
we'd
just
be
want to
here.
leave that to the wayside?
I'm pretty sure we'd be here
It's
for like
not
another
allowed
2
because then
hours.
people would cry about it.
Probably.
About how unfair it is.
I mean, that's literally a whole new discussion, Professor. Let's not do that.
I'm just gonna leave it at this. Governors relative to what is my question. What
Well,
are we
what
what's the frame of reference that the governors work on?
Atmosphere.
Right, but
Well,
to
what I
what?
mean, so when you have a governor on,
Always
say, a
standard grip.
car, right? All it does is it caps the speed, and that's what the governor in these ships do. It just caps the
Mhm.
speed based on the mode that you're in.
Right, but the difference between a ship in zero gravity and empty space and a car on the ground is that the car is bound by not only gravity but inertia, right? A
Right.
ship in zero gravity is not bound by either of those things.
Right.
So
So
like
basically, what
how would a
happens?
governor even work?
Oh, it
The
fires your retro
governing based off
thrusters.
the
Yeah.
yeah.
If you
Fucking
try to go faster, it
Um,
fights you.
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. Buster governors, no thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
I would
If
rather be
so,
flying with like
But like even
half a
then,
leg. If that was the case.
even then, the main thrusters, if you're able to put 100% of your power into them, right, and you're able to fire them full speed, even if the retro thrusters are working against you, those main thrusters are more powerful than the retro thrusters. That's how they have it set up in master modes. So
except
like even just
they have a limiter
logically,
within the thruster itself.
it could throttle I guess artificially throttle your main thruster
it would have
once
to.
you
Mhm.
It's the
near
only way it makes
the
sense.
govern governed speed that it is governing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's the only way it would make sense. But like even then, it doesn't. Just like it's not how relativity works.
No, I again, you and I are on the same page with this for sure.
Yeah. We all I think we all on the same
Yep.
page with that, but
Makes
that's
no
not how they do
sense.
it in CIG.
Guys, we have to stop it. CIG might see this and know that we're making sense. They're gonna
But like
punish us.
the game
You're
could be
not.
What are they
so
gonna
good.
do? Make the
It could
game
be
longer to come out?
the game could be so good
You
if
mean it
they
could be
would
great again?
just try to be a little physically realistic.
I mean, yeah. I've
Even
Do
made
they
the
just a
have the
same.
little.
right to claim immersiveness
It'd be
now?
harder.
After all this, do you think? Or do you think they've lost the right to claim immersiveness in this
Oh,
game?
they've never had the right to claim immersiveness, in my opinion. The
Just
only
making sure.
thing that they can claim is that you get immersed into their fantasy.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh,
But that's what
fucking
this game
true.
is. It's a fucking fantasy. And
And a
it's like
fallacy.
it's like it's a
It's not a
weird
bad
blend of
fantasy.
like real rules and like just made up bullshit and like it doesn't make sense.
No, but it's not a bad fantasy all the same.
No, I mean I like it. I wouldn't have backed the game as much as I did if I didn't like it, but fucking come on, dude. Like even just before when I was like what is the governor governing relative to and you said like atmosphere? Like
Mhm.
my follow-up question is okay, atmosphere of what planet? What moon?
True.
I
Because
guess whatever.
hmm
in
I guess it
real
would be.
in real space, the moon that we have on our orbiting Earth has a different gravitational pull than the Earth does. So if we're flying in Seoul and we're flying around with a governor in our ship, what is it relative to? Is it relative to Seoul or the moon or like the fucking actual star itself? Like what is the frame of reference that we're choosing here? And
So
if it's a
Probably be
universal
the frame
frame
of
of reference, then what the fuck is that? Because there
It
is no
probably
such thing as a universal frame of reference
if they
in
use
so
a
relativity.
universal frame of reference, they'd probably be using Earth's gravitational frame of reference because that would be where it first came out of.
Right. So then when we go to the moon, our governor should be fucking going batshit crazy because it's like a third of the gravity that the Earth has, right? And
Mhm.
we should be able to go 3 times as fast on the moon. But that's not how it works.
I think it's more not along the lines of the governor functioning
so
within the
you're
sensors of of everything, but more like a standard line, like as if like they put a limiter on how fast the engine output would be,
Right.
or how
Yeah.
powerful that
your
engine
frame of
output
reference is
would
actually
generate.
0 G. So when they govern a ship, they govern it in 0 G. When you hit atmosphere, you're gonna hit enough resistance in the atmosphere that you're actually gonna end up slowing down below what the governor is rated for. So
Okay.
at that point, you're no longer limited by the governor, but by the density of the atmosphere.
In zero gravity, right? Assuming there are no
Hmm.
planetary bodies near you, you are the frame of reference. There is no motion around you, okay?
Right.
If you're in an empty space alone.
Hmm.
So,
Which technically would be
therefore,
a Lagrange point.
right, I mean, even if it's not a Lagrange point, if you're just out in deep space, you're alone. You're a single object with nothing around you for light years, right? They
Hmm.
will still have a gravitational pull on you, but that's only because gravity is a like it's
Just
just
a
the way that
fabric.
it works is yeah, it just is it's baked into space-time. It's just
Yep.
like the way that it curves. But like let's take a void, right? Let's take a void as an example. There's no object other than you in that void, right? And you're going along, you're doing your thing. Your computer wouldn't be able to govern you because you have no frame of reference. If then an asteroid were to come out of nowhere, suddenly there is a frame of reference. But the question is, are you the object in motion or is the asteroid the object in motion? The answer is both of you are in motion relative to each other. And so the
Mhm.
governor would have to figure out which one is the frame of reference, but it wouldn't logically be
sense.
able to because they're both equally valid frames of reference, right?
Right.
So like if the asteroid is going 1,000 meters per second relative to my 0 meters per second, I'm going 1,000 meters per second relative to its 0 meters per second. So how can the governor decide between the two?
You would need a second reference point
You
to
you would need
even
another
get some
reference
kind
point.
of, yeah, to even get any
Well, I
kind of
think
calculation, you'd need another reference point.
Right. You would need at least 3 bodies to figure this out.
that would all be done though in the initial concept or in the initial testing of all the systems before the ship even comes out.
But guys, this is a video game.
I guess. Yeah, it is a video game.
I know,
I
I know.
accept
We're
that.
going
But
into a lot
But
into like the
it
But
just
no,
mechanics
I-
of
pisses,
the game,
it
but I
pisses
think
me
that's
off
what
so much.
Oh, it pisses me off the
but I
fact
think
that we're
that's
governed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's the reference within the game where it's like everything is all our engines and shit are governed based off of these tests have been done a long time ago and they just follow that standard uh was it calculation
Mhm.
If
that they done when they initially did these tests with this engine to this engine to this engine, and then you just put it onto a ship, and the governor
Yeah.
is just based off of that data, not so much the data that's
I
surrounding it.
I
So,
hope engineering can find the governor somewhere in my system and rip it the fuck out.
Mhm. I agree. I agree.
Um, but no,
all of a
so
sudden your ship
since
becomes a
True.
pancake.
since in Star Citizen we're always in a star system, right? So every time we jump, we
Mhm.
go from one star system to the next. I guess technically you would consider the sun your reference point because the sun can be considered to be zero motion. And then you would be obviously there's other planetary bodies and celestial objects in the star system, so you can use other frames of reference within that, but
Right.
the sun would be the primary reference point.
Right, and that's fine. But like even then, if say an asteroid were to come from outside the solar system, right? And it's moving at a certain velocity and it gets um influenced by the star, right? It's not going to just lose that velocity that it came in with. What's going to happen is that it's either going to slow down or speed up relative to how it's moving around the star. But in Star Citizen that doesn't happen because the star is perfectly static and it
Right.
does not move. So like I don't see how it could be a reference point.
Well, we've had an unexpected I wouldn't say science class. What is this? Physics class?
Yeah,
Um,
physics.
so
Physics
I
is
think
science, so
I
yes.
Yeah, it is science.
okay, fair enough. You got me there. So I think we can go ahead and start wrapping up on this point. We talked about CIG and how they're treating the next production cycle for the next 12 months. We talked about the F7 Super Hornet. Feel free to give your guys' comments below if you're watching the video after the fact or even now. And give us your opinions as a viewer, what you think of the Super Hornet Mark II. We'd greatly appreciate your guys' insight. We obviously have our own, but we are open to all other angles,
Mhm.
just like the Super Hornet is to a Gladius. That being said, uh, Omega, Stompy, Crandor, Acid, thanks for joining me on the podcast today. To those of you watching, we will be doing this every Wednesday at 9 p.m. for the foreseeable future until we change the schedule, if that ever happens. So feel free to hit the like button if you think we've earned it by this point. Make sure to press that thumbs up. That's the same button. So let's do the subscribe button next and hit the bell icon to get notified when we go live.
Yeah, boy.
If you can get all of that done and leave me a comment, I I don't have anything to give you, but you'll make me feel much better. Um, and obviously, you know, it lets the guys here know that their time spent is not gone to waste as well. So again,
Never.
That's not the
thanks
point.
for watching, guys. We're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna move on, doing our own stuff in the verse, and we will see you guys next week, same time, same bat place. Yeah. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, everybody. Stay safe out there and fly true.
Met you in Stanton, you were flying real
Alright,
fast.
and we're clear.
Said you'd take me places first class, no pass. Docked at Grim Hex, thought you seemed so chill. Then you stole my Pisces and left me the bill. Shit, I should have known. Oh baby, take my hand. We'll drift through Pyro, a love so grand. From Stanton's lights to Pyro's fights. Wait, you're a girl for real, right? Sent you a Pico, sent you some creds. Even sold my Corsair to buy us a bed. Booked us a suite in Orison's Glow. Then I heard you in voice chat. Bro, what the fuck? Oh baby, take my hand. We'll drift through Pyro, a love so grand. From Stanton's lights to Pyro's fights. Wait, you're a girl for real. Right. Your comms are broken, your mic's always dead. All your texts sound like a chatbot's been fed. Now I'm confused, my wallet feels light. Tell me real quick, are you Chuck or Dwight? You said you were loyal, my spacefaring queen. And then I saw your name flashing on Pyro's crime screen. Turns out my Valentine's a pirate at heart. Caterpillar's missing, just like my heart. Oh baby, take my hand. We'll drift through Pyro, ain't love so grand. From Stanton's lights to Pyro's fights. Wait, you're a girl for real, right? So hold on tight as we quantum away. Love is strange in the verse they say. Through thick and thin. Next time I'm checking the spectrum before I commit. This don't feel right. Perhaps I shouldn't have let you in. Your comms are broken, your mic's always dead. All your texts sound like a chatbot's been fed. Booked us a suite in Orison's Glow. Then I heard you in voice chat.